Hey guys, what's up? I have been sent a game to look at, and we're going to look at it together from no prior knowledge. So I will even hide the moves so we can't see anything. Okay, let's go through it. So it's been submitted by Thin White Duke 85, long time follower. Okay, we've got a D4 opening, D4, D5, and the Queen's Gambit. Okay, this is an opening I know nothing about. Okay, so I mean, obviously, you know, the idea is that White's trying to tempt this pawn away from the centre where it can be recaptured later on by the bishop. Okay, so we've got the Queen's Gambit declined, I think, with E3. I think this one is the Slav. If they both come out, that's the semi-Slav. And that is the limit of my knowledge. Okay, knight C3, this is very typical when you play any D4, C4 opening. And you could see this opening at the absolute highest level. It's very classic. Okay, two knights come out, and the king's bishop comes out now to pin the knight. Black's getting ready to castle. Both players are in the 1100 to 1200 range, by the way. All right, but this is nothing major to worry about at this point. The knight is defended by a pawn, so yeah, you have to worry more when you've got a piece that is not defended by a pawn that's pinned. Then maybe there's a risk of this knight coming in with putting two attackers on there. We shall see. Okay, White now kicks the bishop. And Black takes. Okay, so Black has now surrendered the bishop pair. White has captured with one pawn towards the centre, giving White a central majority, 4 pawns in the C, D and E files. On the downside, White now has an isolated pawn in the A file. Black to move castles, and we have pawn to E3. Okay, kind of shuts in this bishop a little bit. Maybe it would have been an idea to bring out the bishop first and pin this knight onto the queen before shutting the door with E3. But this is what we have, and in comes the knight. Okay, so we have an issue. The knight's now looking at this pawn, which is presently undefended. We could defend with queen here, or even bringing the bishop out. And considering the fact that this bishop's now currently hampered by pawns on both diagonals, I might be tempted to play bishop d2. Okay, White Duke defends with the queen, and we have c6 from Black. Black has a similar issue with a bishop that's now trapped, entombed inside its own pyramid. Alright, so an interesting move. So White prepares to castle, and is threatening to capture the knight, and if pawn recaptures, we've got queen captures, winning a pawn. And Black ignores it. Black ignores it entirely. So I'm thinking this is probably worth going for, because you win a pawn, but more than that, you'll end up with 2 pawns in the centre for Black against 4 for White. So I would go for this. Duke decides not to go for it, right now at least, and castles instead. Probably sensible, but it is free stuff. And now Duke takes on d5. I guess however Black recaptures, so let's say c takes d5, c takes d5, bishop takes, then the pawn takes, we can still win a pawn this way. Okay, and now, yeah, we take and we win a pawn. Good. And now you can see on the C, D and E files, it's a 3-on-1 pawn-wise. The downside still is that this bishop is currently trapped behind a whole bunch of dark squared pawns. It'd be nice for the E pawn to progress, I think, and open up maybe a kind of a sack line. So I think a move I'd be looking at now for White would be Queen G4. There are 2 pieces that have to move for a discovered attack by Black's Queen's bishop. Okay, we have Rook B8 and C4. Not really sure about C4. I mean, it's no more defended there than it was on C3. And the other issue is that this knight is going to try and make progress via a dark square next. So I'm not convinced with that move. It may help to hamper this bishop at some point, but still, it's not part of a chain right now. So I'm not sure that was the critical pawn. I think, for me, Queen G4, something like that would be great. Also, even Knight E5, try and trade off the knights. We're up material already, And having the queen on there would also target that rook. And the bishop simply can't get out of the way. We'd force the rook back there. We have b6 from black. Black is now probably eyeing up bishop a6 to hit this pawn. And also, we can't really push c5 because it's attacked twice there. So we'd give the pawn back if that happened. Okay. So I see white's idea is probably along these lines, trying to launch some kind of attack against g7. Knight swings around to f6, hitting the queen. But now, queen here or here does hit this rook. This pawn is also undefended, I notice. Okay, we have queen f4 hitting the rook. And this is a decent move. Black defends the rook with a discovered defense by the queen. Also threatening to capture this knight. So right now queen could take, but otherwise it would be g takes, which is less than ideal. So white has time to swing the rook across to the d file. Notice white does have some pieces on light squares and black only has a light squared bishop. We've actually got opposite coloured bishop situation. So maybe, I don't know about this because there's 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces all looking at that square. So I think I'd be holding fire on any pawn advance at this point. Maybe think about knight e5 again, which is begging. Okay. Knight swings around, hitting the queen. This is a bit of a one-dimensional attack, I think. I think I would definitely be putting the queen on g4 now. It hits the knight, forcing the knight back, but then after it goes back, we're going to have to move again. But the queen can drop back to g3, with the idea of pushing this and a threat against g7 with the queen on g3 or g4. Good? Excellent. Exactly what we said. Oh, the knight comes back and wants another bit of it. Right, we need to be careful about repetition. Okay, the knight now swings around to e4 with a variation on the theme. And now the queen comes to f6. Whoa. I'd still be looking at this, I think. There's no risk of a mate on here because we've got a rook defending. Okay, white now proposes a trade of queens. Black doesn't feel up in the mood for that. But now we can take the knight. This bishop's looking down at g7, which is fine right now. If we take here, if queen takes, pawn takes, then we're kind of opening up the h-file a little bit. It's not critical. Also, this bishop's undefended, so there's no ideas of pushing d5 with the discovery. Okay, we have takes and pawn takes. Okay, immediate pawn takes. Probably drop the queen back to g3 now. Just stick it on a dark square. Then there's one less thing to worry about. Your opponent's got a light square bishop. Stick it on a dark square. Yep, nice one, Juki. Excuse me. Even dropping this bishop back to a1 might be preferable because at least there it's defended by the rooks. Bishop a6 targets the weak pawn. We could push, but if takes, our bishop hangs, so that doesn't really work. So that'd be a free pawn. So I'm thinking rook over. An alternative could even be queen c7. Also targets a loose pawn there. Okay, we have rook c1. Pawn pushed by black. Okay, this is also threatening. Maybe there might be a risk of a discovery here. Remember earlier on I noticed that white had a bunch of pieces on light squares. No bad thing to get this rook on a dark square either, I don't think. Okay, well this now invites the discovery. So then rook moves. If pawn takes here, we've got bishop takes, which is okay. We might have a discovery of our own, so it's not that threatening. Okay, that's what we have. Rook e1. Yeah, sorry, rook fe1. Rook b d8. Why there? Apart from anything else, you've now got black's got both rooks on dark squares, and we've got an opposite coloured bishop situation. It also hangs this pawn outright, and it's doing really not much to prevent the progress of Charlie the c-pawn. So there you go, Juki does the right thing. There's also a threat here of a little skewer, forcing the bishop away from that pawn, which is now undefended. Rook comes in. I'm not buying this. I'm not buying this. E4 is definitely a thought. Or simply rook A1. We have E4. Okay, that's aggressive. But white has, like we say, this pawn majority in the center of the board. Let's use it. Press forward. Use the imbalances that are in your favor and make the most of them. And right now, I mean, we've got a clear past the pawn here. Can't be intercepted by another pawn, which means that if black's going to take out this pawn, he's going to have to use a piece to do it. Fortunately, he does have a bishop guarding the promotion square. And now he has two rooks as well. Okay, queen comes over. Looking at the bishop and pawn. Okay, we could now win the pawn, but d5. d5. This is nice. Yeah, I like that. Queen f4. That's another odd move. I mean, again, this bishop's blunted here. The queen's not really attacking this pawn because it's defended by a rook. Rooks are connected, which is good. I'd just push on with d6, I think, or queen takes d6. There you go. Duke's not getting distracted by the promise of a free pawn. That's not what's going to win the game here. This is what's going to win the game. Pawn push. Oh, I'm not worried at all about this. Let it come, right? They will break like water on rocks. Just capture there. No, you didn't need to do that. You don't need to. Don't flinch. You have to say, look, if the pawn goes forward, I'll take it out. It's fine, right? There's no rook going to end up on this open file in a hurry. Apart from anything else, we've got a nice bishop there. I don't think g3 was necessary there. Queen now swings around. We grab the pawn and f5. That's an ambitious pawn break. This queen is potentially quite menacing there. Also, we have now queen and bishop looking at g7. So this queen has to stay in contact with this pawn to defend. Okay, so we take here and rook takes. Okay, there is a potential queen fork here on c7 targeting the bishop and the rook, but the rook just has to move away next to the king and everything's kind of safe. Wow. Are you kidding me? So this is basically sacking a bishop for 2 pawns by the look of it. Queen has to take, right? Because otherwise, well, I think it's the only legal move actually. Queen has to take. We take the queen. If king takes, we get... Oh, no, it's not 2 pawns. 1 pawn. Was that a miscalculation? Or is Thin White Duke saying, I think my pawn storm up this queen side is so strong that I just want to get rid of the queens? And I don't need that bishop anymore. The pawns can do the job. Maybe that's his argument. Okay. To trade. We trade. Okay. I'm in 2 minds about this. You know, we're down in material, but we are actually up 4 pawns. So technically we're +1. Okay. So this is all going to be about these 3 guys. Can they work in tandem? Stay together as a team. In fact, if they go there, this bishop's almost trapped. Okay, we target the pawn. Black has 2 ways to defend, both with the bishop. There we go. So now b5. Surely b5, c6, yeah? Yep. King moves across. That's a bit slow. Black now has the option of grabbing the pawn, giving back the bishop, and then putting the rook here with a fork on 2 pawns. So that does regain 2 pawns, but 2 pawns, maybe 3, but probably 2. But that still leaves them with 1 pawn each on the queen side, and white has a 3-on-1 on the king side. So yeah. Oh, what? Hang on. The bishop can't, well, if it retreats there, it's trapped, okay? So the only move would be to drop that to A8. Also, this pawn's now disconnected from the bishop, so it's hanging. Wow. I mean, bishop on A8, is it doing anything there? It might take out the B pawn. I don't know. Fascinating. Okay. And now we've got a situation with two connected pawns, but it's black to play, so black's going to be able to capture this one. This is the issue, which he does. And now surely rook C1. No, just pushing on. Oh yeah, of course. That's even, but this now, that's the problem. Yep. Okay. So white captures on D5, black captures on C7. Okay. Now, first thing I'll be looking at is king safety. There's no risk of a back rank. If this pawn was here, then yeah, could be an issue. But the good news is that means that our rook does not have to return to the back rank. It can now move around the cabin, so to speak. So maybe here or no, here, right? Problem is, if you bring rook G5, this rook can drop down to defend the pawn. But if you play rook D4, the rook can't get to that angle because the king's in the way, right? So rook here, and he can't play rook there either. So rook D4. I don't think that was the right move because black can defend. Okay, king advances. So what we're threatening to do is H3 and just eliminate this pawn. Rook escapes. H3. No, it's black to move. The issue is the king is currently quarantined. The king cannot pass through this fifth rank. So there is a rook move, a random rook move, and now H3 takes. Good. The king could just drop back to G2 now. I'd still play king G2, I think. Yeah, good. That means this rook can't touch anything really. It'd probably go to E2. Nope. Nice aggressive move. There's a check. This is nice. Moving the king diagonally against the rook means that he's not in check, but the rook now has to do something. Off he goes. King is now wheedling his way up the board, slightly in the way of the pawns. Black shuffles his rook again. Duke's down to under 2 minutes here, by the way. And, okay, I'm guessing there's no increment on this game. That pawn is protected. Up comes the king. This is nice. Oh, no, there is an increment. Okay, it's just jumped from 144 to 151. Okay, here. Pins the pawn. I kind of like this move, because it means the king either has to go to the back rank or here to D6. So king can't go there or there because those are guarded. Even though this pawn is pinned, doesn't matter. Okay, he moves the king up. And now we simply trade off rooks. Yes, trade off rooks. And this is completely won now for white. The move is king G7, and this rolls out the red carpet for the pawn. The pawn can now dance up the red carpet, and it's game over. So, are we going to go all the way to the bitter end? Okay, so the move I would play here is probably queen to here. Just starting to cut off the king's escape. No, he's going for the two queens. Okay, just be careful. Okay, and now it's relative formality. You can basically ladder mate now. So most efficient thing would be to put a queen again on somewhere on the d file. Good. And now you want to play that, but you can't. So yeah, just anything really. It's a one. The only thing you have to be careful about, of course, is stalemate. Okay, that's an unusual move. You come here. You can pre-move this. It's a ladder mate. Forces the king across. And now we ladder mate and we win. Okay, good game. Definitely a good game. I enjoyed that. Couple of questionable moves, but then, you know, these players are in the 1100 to 1200 range. But yeah, good job in the end, and I was definitely impressed with that bishop sack. Achieving, basically kind of assuring a won position or a winning position. But well finished in the end, so thank you, Duke, for submitting that. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I did. Thank you for watching. See you later.